Okay, this is my video on my attempt to replace the SMD LEDs on the backlit display of my Taranis X9D. So mine came standard with blue LEDs and also white in the display. The standard LEDs are 0603s, which are tiny. They're less than 2mm, I think they're 1.5, 1.8mm, very small. I've got some of those, but I'm going to use the 0805, which are bigger. So I'm going to replace the blue ones that are already on there for these blue, slightly bigger ones. And also I'm going to replace the white with the green ones here. So I'll have blue to green, a range of colours. Okay, first thing we're going to do with the Taranis, if you remember my first video, after taking the module out, remove the battery. If you don't and you unplug the ribbon cables, I'll refer you back to my first videos on the Taranis on how to replace the main STM processor, because you'll end up blowing it. So battery out first off. So I'll jump a bit, but I'll take the skin off and I'll take the 6 screws out, 3 each side, and then split it. Okay, so that's with the screws removed. Being careful of the switches. If you want to see a little bit more about that, check out my Taranis repair, where I think I go through taking the screws out and splitting this cover. Obviously unplug battery, because you'll blow the processor, which I did at the beginning of the video. So we need to remove the main board with the display behind it. So I think there's 5 screws. These ribbon cables, be very careful with these as you take them out. You just pull the brown tab to the right a couple of mil. It doesn't come out completely, it doesn't lift up, and then these will slide out very gently and then move it on. With these connectors, again, leverage, be very careful not to leave it too hard because you'll bend the pins and snap them. World of pain. Also, if you want to use a anti-static strap, wrist strap as well, believe it or not, they do work. There is a point to having them. I worked on a surface mount 0603 LED and I touched it with a screwdriver without one of these on, and under the scope you can see it with the naked eye, the LED actually lit, and the only thing I can think of is it actually came from discharge from my hand because I wasn't there. So that was on a dead VTX that I was trying to repair. So that proved the point that you should use a strap. So now I've removed the connectors very carefully. This one's particularly tricky because of that connector, but again, pull and center, leave it ever so slightly both sides at the same time to take it out. And you need to lift out the display, which can be a bit tricky to get out. Okay, once that's out, move that out of the way. So you might want to put something soft down so you don't scratch and also get any smudges on the actual display if you work on that side of it. Oh yeah, the other thing is to remove the small battery here. Fires off into space. Put that somewhere where it's not going to short out, and then it's kind of safe to work on. Then ribbon cable, again, this brown connector will move away a couple of mil and this will slide out, and be very careful with it, very fragile. And then we need to sort of work on the glue around here to separate, so I could get that in shot, and here just to remove this and split this panel away from the LED board, which is the white board underneath. So to remove this glue, I'm going to see if it's just like a standard hot glue. I'm hoping that's what kind of a glue it is. And if that's the case, I've got some IPA, isopropyl alcohol. So you only need a minute amount. So just put my dab on. Right. So if it is hot glue, that'll actually just come off. If not, then maybe a slight amount of heat with a heat gun and a scalpel to try and remove it without damaging, obviously, the backboard here, the reflective backing and the connections there. But I'm going to leave that on for a minute, and then I'm just going to play around with it and see if it comes off. Okay, so that is actually hot glue, and it's on mine anyway, so that's good news. So pair of tweezers, just put a little bit of glue, and you can kind of a little bit of IPA, and you can kind of hear it crack when it goes. It's hard to do this with the camera, but that piece just come off in one lump. So I'll have to do it off camera because it's too difficult to do it and try and without damaging it. But yeah, just work your way on this, and just gently, you'll hear it crack from the board, and then it should pull away, and then we need to separate this bit, the edge of the whiteboard, away from the bottom of the reflective screen. So now I've managed to remove the hot glue in the four corners that support the back of the LCD display. So the bit that illuminates the back of it. It's like a reflective white panel there. Now on the videos I've seen, what's not clear, so get this in shot, what's not clear is where this LED board is here. Okay, I believe it goes up into this gap, into this light path reflective backing for the LCD. Now to get this out, I think people are just being lucky. I think when you see some of the videos where they've heated these 3 pads at the back, it's weakened the probably cyanose glue that's in there, and that's how they've managed to release it. So what I tried initially was the debonding agent, this debonding agent for super glue, and I put a small amount of it down the sides of the LED strip board, which is down here and here. But you've got to be careful, because obviously I started to debond this backing, which I don't want to do. Although I want that to stay on there. So what I'm gonna do is, old school, is desolder these. So a lot of flux, braid, and high heat temperature, and then have a go at actually removing this all together, and just see on mine how difficult it is to pull out these LCD boards without snapping them or damaging, because obviously then it's a new display. I think this is going to be an easier method, and in the process of heating these, I may weaken the glue and it will just come off anyway. So let's give that a go. The braid didn't work, and try desolder pump. Just to work reasonably quickly so I don't damage the board underneath. So prime it, heat the solder, get as much up as you can. That's quite a bit to come off that one. Let's try the next one. That's it. Next one. Work your way around the pins, and also use the braid, so most of that's come off now. So with a bit of gentle persuasion, lots of flux applied to the pins, desoldering pump, just clean your tip, because solder will flow to the clean tip, heat, and then right over the top and release. So 1, 2, 3, release. You get most of the solder away. Now if you've got tiny little bits of solder just on the edge, I mean these are quite big pads, so what I've found useful, be very careful with the scalpel because you can cut the traces underneath, is if you've just say like got a hair's width of solder left on and it's holding the board on, just gently scrape, ever so gently scrape it, don't go too mad, and then you'll cut a trace either side. Check the other side because this is through hole soldering, I believe. And also you can heat the pad slightly, but again, clean tip. If you touch both, you're going to end up in the same situation. If it's not working, just step away from it, leave it, let it cool down, clean it, put some flux paste back on, tiny dab of solder, fresh solder on there, more flux paste, soldering iron, pump over the top, release, and then very patiently I'm using just a bit of wood, just prise the last bit, and there was just a tiny bit just holding that last piece on, and then the board will come away. And it looks pretty clean. I haven't damaged any traces. And now I can sort of have an attack on these with maybe the release agent that I've got to remove these boards and do the job properly, rather than trying to solder it while it's on this back of this reflector.